Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Let's start our new session with our wonderful quote: Reading is the great way to all the learnings. So, for the starting of new chapter of learning, I, Anjali Kushwaha, being your host for today's event, wants to extend a warm greeting and good morning to all of you present here. I hope you all are doing amazing. On the behalf of whole SEMS family, I welcome you all to our international webinar on science of reading. To add our guest of honor and today's speaker, Ms. Anshu Dua, it's a great honor to have you with us, ma'am, and we are grateful for your presence. Now, let me introduce today's speaker to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Anshu Dua to all of you, the accomplished Chief Operating Officer of Academics and Growth of SAR Education Private Limited, with a visionary leadership and dedication to transformative education. Anshu has led impactful initiatives in Crete school states, sales, and positivity impacted the lives of 5 lakh students. Her expertise in content development, strategic planning, and digital solutions has been instrumental in driving growth and fostering a culture of excellence in education sector. Let's welcome Anshu Dua ma'am to this webinar as we are eagerly anticipate gaining valuable insights for her extensive experience and expertise in education.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anjali, and thank you, SEMS Foundation, for giving me this opportunity to interact with educators around the world. I think people who have looked at the topic, I can see they're looking out for a change in education, and therefore, it's a pleasure for me that I can talk about something that I have discovered or been known to, and share my journey, my things, my understanding with people across the world. So I will just start to share my screen. And as the topic talks about, it's the science of reading. And my organization is on a mission to develop reading skills for children. And when I talk about this, of course, it does relate to many different languages, but today specifically we would be talking about English literacy and the art of reading English. When we talk about English literacy, it's actually a very big elephant in the classroom. So if I talk about an elephant in the classroom and bringing literacy for every child, it's like a similar thing. And for a teacher, an educator, a facilitator, it's like handling that elephant in the classroom. We understand this, that we are not wired, our brains are not wired to read. We do not have a reading section in our brain, but we all have speaking sections, right? So our brains are wired to talk. Our brains are truly wired to talk. Reading is an acquired skill which needs to be taught to a child. If I go into a country or a place or a different state where a different language is being used, as a human, the speaking would very naturally come to me. But if I want to read the material, the text, it would be very difficult to acquire it unless someone teaches me that. So this is what is meant by our brains are not wired to read, but they are wired to speak, to talk. And therefore, it brings us to an understanding that even if we want our children, when we are wanting our children to read, just getting a lot of textbooks and surrounding them with a lot of textbooks or picture books will not really make them read well. Huh? There has to be a systemic approach to teach reading structures. So let's look at this small little thing, a war between, how do we need to teach children to read when we are talking about the skills that have to be developed, whether it has to be word identification, that is the phonics, that means I teach the letter sounds, or it has to be a whole word approach, that is the orthographic mapping. How do I see these two different aspects of reading, teaching reading? When I talk about looking at word identification or phonics, I have a word, I crack it down into its simplest form, that is the phoneme, and I sound it out, know the graphemes. Graphemes are the letter that are written, the written text which is there on a piece of paper or somewhere, and I sound it out. That's how I say that it's the phonic structure, the word identification structure. On the other hand, if I have to look at a complete word and I have to look at it as a picture, I look at the word as a picture, right? Not in the phonemic sound structure, and I read out the whole word, it becomes the orthographic mapping. I have a very simple, exercise for all of you to just look at the text which is written in the center of this image. What is that? If you could read out, if someone can read it out for me, if Anjali, you can read it out for me, please. Would anyone be able to read out? Okay, so I can help you out. If you look at the word queen, it comes so naturally. If I look at the word freeway, it comes so naturally. But when I look at the third word, it's a bigger word, but the longevity of the word is not that is creating a problem. The problem is that I have not looked at the word before. So what is the strategy that I use? The strategy that I use is I look at the word, I try to break down into smaller pieces, and then I try to sound it out. So I sound it out as li, you, ni, and then I join it together, which means that even if I'm using an orthographic mapping in the words like queen and freeway, that means I'm not breaking them down. I'm not at all breaking them down. I'm just looking at the word and reading it as a complete word. Queen, freeway. But the third word, I'm trying to use my phonic structure. So which comes to an understanding that till the time we are not fluent with our word reading, we would use the phonic structure of breaking the words down into their simplest sounds, right? So the war between the whole word approach and synthetic phonics approach comes to a standstill, that we would have to require to teach the phonic structures to move into fluency, which is the use of the whole word approach, right? And therefore, we have to see that once the orthographic mapping is done, it's actually about storing longer words in the long-term memory. And that storage of the words comes with the sight, right? So as I was explaining that the word like queen or freeway, I was not breaking them down. I was not taking time to read those words because they were the stored words in the long-term memory. Another exercise which I thought I would do with you is, can you just identify the color? Can anyone?
Are we supposed to read the name, or we supposed to spell the color name?
You have to do both actually. So first you just do the reading of what is written, the text that is written.
Okay. Blue, brown, red, white. Coming to the colors, yellow, black, green, and kind of blue.
So what's happening, Ms. Nasa? The ones that are stored in the orthographic memory, the text came in very quickly.
Yeah.
Right? But the color name took a little time, right? Yeah. Because that was not stored in the memory. So that means fluency would come through visual memory only when we actually have read those words thousands and thousands of times.
Yes.
Yeah? And this is a report called The Science of Reading, which was given by Emily Hanford. She talks about reading a lot, but she's not an educationist. She is a journalist. And she wrote, or in America, she wrote a particular column which talked about why aren't our kids being taught to read. So in an English-speaking country also, children suffer from reading problems. That is why this report became a hit.
Yeah.
And if we look at people with second languages, it's of course a very difficult thing. So then there are a lot of researches that went around the science of reading. So this was one report, but science of reading is actually a culmination of loads and loads of science reports, wherein they talk about involving the challenging areas, providing preventive and remedial methods in reading. And I'm going to talk about what do they really give as an essence. They say that there is a ladder of reading. So this is from Nancy Young. And they say this is a ladder of reading. So we may assume that we are able to read as adults, though we have not done a phonic systematic instruction. Yet we are able to read it. But we have to understand that the ladder talks about 5%, 35%, 40 to 50%, and 10 to 15%. And my next slide would really give you a clear essence of it. Whereas 5% of the children in a class learn to read effortlessly. 35% learn to read easily and at an apt rate with explicit systematic phonic based reading instruction. 40 to 50% require support, yeah, with the phonic instruction, but the 10 to 15% have symptoms of dyslexia and require explicit systematic phonics instruction. That means only the 5% are able to read without any instruction. But we might be in our classrooms the first 40%. But if we just go back and remember our classrooms, there would have been children who would have struggled in subjects in grade 6, 7, 8 and the secondary levels. They would have become the backbenchers, the ones who could not comprehend text because every text was in English, right?
Right.
Or they could not develop a love of reading a newspaper or blogs or things. And I'm looking at English only. I'm not looking at any other language right now, right? So all my comments come from that angle. So what specific elements to science of reading actually talk about? They talk about two things. Word recognition and language comprehension both have to be an important part, an important strand to develop skill reading. So there are 8 strands actually. 3 of them come into the word recognition and these 5 come into language comprehension. When I talk about word recognition, it means sounding out letter combinations or single letters to make a word. And then the fluency comes in, that I am able to look at a word and just quickly read it without sounding it out. Whereas language comprehension talks about my background knowledge of a word, the vocabulary, the language structure, verbal reasoning, and literacy knowledge. Generally, what happens in the pre-primary grades, we only talk about word recognition, and the primary grades, we only talk about language comprehension. So I've seen so many teachers in schools working with making 3-letter words, 4-letter words, 5-letter words, maybe only in the pre-primary. But the moment that move into the primary grades, year 10, 11, 12, children are not exposed to the phonic instruction. They're only required to read non-decodable text, and that's just rote memorization. But rote memorization would not lead to the skilled readers. So we have to increase automaticity in both word recognition and language comprehension, and therefore decodable structures need to start very early, and the decoding must go from the lower to the grade 5. So that means around 8 years of explicit systematic phonics structure is required to develop skilled reading. And this was an eye-opener for me also at a point of time, because I too, so what we are taught, we are teaching the same. We are no different unless we read a lot, we study a lot, we research a lot. And somehow in my Indian backgrounds here, teachers don't really do a lot of research. And therefore, whatever knowledge they have, they just carry out with that knowledge and go on. And therefore, this becomes a kind of a lot of awareness program for me and my organization now, that we go around and talk to teachers that, upscaling is very important, upgrading is very important. And why we have to upgrade, how can we do that even when we are trying to develop children for the 4C skills, we are wanting a lot of critical thinking and communication to happen. We don't know what kind of jobs will be there in the future. So our children need to read a lot. And therefore, it's very important that we focus a lot on word recognition and language comprehension, both. I have a little video for you to show.
Presentation.
So this is a little child that is, trying to blend.
Look at the first word, Shivai, with the first letter. Only change the first letter. Only change the first letter. What's this? अब ये क्या बन गया word? Read the word. Very good. Next letter. हाँ.
Walk.
Walk.
Walk. Duck.
Right. So,
One
so
by one,
here
one by
the
one.
child is basically doing blending of sounds. But is blending reading? Is it truly reading? No. Reading is only going to happen when we have word recognition and we have language comprehension. Right now, it is only about word recognition. I'm able to get my letters, know the sounds, put them from left to right, and sound them together to give one unit that is a word. But the child is not able to really make a picture of all the words or get a comprehension of all the words that the child is reading. The child does not know which one of them are the sensical words and which of them are nonsensical words or they don't exist, right? So this is what we call about word recognition. But blending would be done when there is language comprehension. And Dr. Stanley has done a lot of work, on the brain working of how a child reads, how reading happens. And he clearly states that there is a visual input to a brain, to a different area of the brain, whereas the visual word and the access of the meaning happens in a very different area. Which means while we are using letter sounds to make words, actually we are not getting the meaning. The meaning is another thing, and we have to make some kind of a connect in the synapses so that the moment you read a word, you are able to create an impression of the word, or there is an image in the brain, or a meaning is accessed. And therefore, a lot of understanding to language structure is done. Now, if I look at language structure, can you please place a comma somewhere and speak out this sentence? Anyone? We are not a group of, we are a very small group, so I think we can go around and check out and say what a meaning of just putting a comma would become. Let's try out. Where do you think we should put a comma?
Maybe after a woman.
Okay, a woman without her man is nothing.
Yeah.
And if I put it after her,
maybe it's a continuation part, like a woman without her is a continuity, means you're giving a reason and supporting a person. It's a combo.
So the two make a different context.
Yeah.
So that's what the complexity of the language is high, and therefore language structures need to be taught. When I look at this particular symbol, what do you see here?
I, comma, giving a name.
I. Teachers tell me this is a standing line.
Yeah.
In numeracy, it is one.
Yes.
Right? So this one structure could stand for so many different things.
Exactly.
And therefore, there has to be a background knowledge. So I'm just supporting the science of reading and letting understand that word recognition as well as language comprehension, both of them are very important to develop prosodic reading. When I look at word recognition, it actually starts with phonological awareness.
Phonetics.
What is that? So phonological awareness is a little different from phonetics. So when I talk about phonological awareness, it is about any sound. It means my ears are tuned to the sounds I can catch and identify them. So if you talk about a word like cat, and if I give a dictation to a child cat, the child will have to come out and say first how many sounds, right?
3 sounds.
3 sounds. So how do you get to understand these sounds is phonological awareness. If I give a word like sheep, the child will again identify that there are just 3 sounds.
3. First,
right?
E will consider under 1 sound.
Yeah. So that way, phonological awareness becomes a must, and it is the start of reading instruction, right? So first we need to know.
Yeah, every word has its unique sound. So we're supposed to count each word as a count or a keynote.
No. So basically, that's what I'm trying to just say, that suppose you have a word like you've got keep. I am putting up a word like weed. I'll just showcase this with this small thing. So I hope you're able to see this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You have a word wherein you put the W and the E.
Yeah.
here is a single letter that is making a sound E,
Yeah.
right? You've
Yes.
got two sounds.
Yeah.
Now I have got this,
Double
and I
E.
want to make
Yeah.
a letter T, and you see here
Mhm.
again I have got 4 letters, but they're making only 3 sounds.
3 sounds. Yes. Yeah.
Right?
W
This
is one
is-
sound.
It's
E
one
is
sound,
one sound. D
But-
is one sound.
but look at this, Miss Manasa, that here the double E is looking to you and in a simpler form because I've used a flashcard. That is a
Exactly.
single flashcard with the double E.
Yeah.
But this will not happen in the text when a child reads.
Yes.
There the child will have to read 2 letters as a single sound.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's what starts to cause a problem. So we have to give them simple instructions. First, we move from this kind of a visual clue that start to read the E with the double E. Don't look at them as 2 different letters.
Yes.
Look
Yes.
at them
Yeah.
as one single, one single unit.
Yeah.
And this
To pronounce
single
it
unit
as a
gives you a
single
single
word.
sound.
Yes.
Right. And in a similar manner, we would have the others also. Something like AR. This is a single sound. Something like this.
Exactly. Would.
Okay.
Yeah.
So unless my child is very clear, with the phonological aspect of words, the child will not be able to understand that how many sounds do I hear? Because the next step would be, what do you write for these number of sounds?
Exactly. Actually, we
Yeah, so
doesn't know what going on in their mind because it we have no clue what they are seeing actually from their level of perception, whether it is single E or double E, how they are considering it.
But that's where the explicit instruction starts to work in.
Exactly.
As a facilitator, you have to lead the child in such a manner that when you say cat, the first thing that the child would say is, I have got 3 sounds.
Yeah.
No, 3 sounds.
3 sounds as a single
Whatever
word.
may be the letters. We are not concerned about the letters right now. We are only concerned about sounds. So the first step is, how many sounds do they identify? Because there is a game called the Goodyear games that we play. And this Goodyear games talks about identifying the number of sounds only.
Yes.
So I give you a lot of words. Suppose I give you a word like stop. How many sounds?
Stop.
4. I give you a word video. How many sounds?
Video.
How many sounds?
I'm getting hardly around 3 because VI comes under one sound. B.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but it comes 4.
E, O.
Oh, okay. You're splitting
a
it.
Different sound. So
Okay.
that's what phonological awareness is all about. How clearly can you split the sounds in a word?
E, D, E,
Right?
O. Yeah.
Then comes the part of synthetic phonics. Then comes the next. Now the letters are coming to play.
Recognition.
Till the time there were only sounds around us. There were no letters. I could not see a letter. I could only hear sounds. That's why phonological awareness is called the tuning in of the ears.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about synthetic phonics, it starts to use the decoding structure of knowing the sounds and putting letters into the sound.
Yes.
And here the phoneme-grapheme association is required. So a cat and a dog, and I know what the letters are. But more of the recognition comes in when I start to put them into a sentence.
Yeah.
So if I look at the complete sentence, the little dog barked at the big cat, I will also have to look at decoding from the point of view that my child is not able to read little.
Yes.
The child will be able to read dog. The child will be able to read cat, big cat, but the child will not be able to read word like little, right? Because I have to teach an explicit instruction out here that double T would make a single sound and LE would also make a single sound. I have to talk about barked. I have to talk about the AR. I have to talk about the ED and giving the sound, right? And then we have to talk about the sight word, the. Why the THE is sounding as the, though the E is there, but still it has a the sound, the sight words. So if I look at phonological awareness, I understand it's all about sounds. I look at decoding, I understand that the decoding is about putting the sound grapheme association. And when I look at the sight recognition, it means I just look at a word and I'm able to read with fluency. Okay,
Yes.
so the instruction has to be so systematic that I get fluent with the instruction. Right?
Exactly.
So this is word recognition. And when I talk about language comprehension, as I said, it's got background knowledge, it's got vocabulary, it's got language structure, verbal reasoning, and the last part to it that we have
Literacy
is
knowledge.
getting the fluency. Yeah, getting the fluency with the literacy knowledge. Yeah, because when we talk about doing comprehensions with our children, what do we do in comprehensions? Mostly, what do we do in comprehensions? We do question answers, fill in the blanks, true falses. But
That's the
is
following.
match the following? But is language comprehension about this? Do we do it in real life? No. What we do it in real life is about the literacy knowledge, about verbal reasoning. That's what we have to teach.
The
Right?
dictionary.
So, yeah. So when I look at again the same sentence, it's about what does my child have in the brain as a picture. So the
Yeah.
moment the child reads this, the little dog barked at the big cat, is my child able to really make out what is happening? What is the
At
sentence
least
trying to
you
figure
can
out?
imagine what's going on.
Yeah. And we have to remember this structure also, the processing model for word recognition. As it is said before by Dr. Standless, and was also in this particular research, that phonological processor, right, and the orthographic processor are working together, but there is a meaning processor and there is a context processor.
Yes.
So until unless my child has looked at the cat and the
Identify.
dog,
Yeah.
a fight, they'll not be able to make any sense of this. And therefore, we have to start with reading structures with very small decodable readers from an age of around 4 years. Before that, whatever you do with children is read aloud. You read out to them a lot of stories so they are able to get the background knowledge, create a context, and that's why reading becomes a habit for them. But when you look at reading itself, that means an independent reader, that the child you want to make an independent reader would only come when they have a meaning and a context with the phonological process and the orthographic process. So,
Exactly.
a bat could be anything, this bat or that bat. And they would make a sense of it only when they have a context to it, they have a background knowledge to it, right? So reading comprehension is the product of decoding and language comprehension. And this is one mathematical, situation that we have to understand, that decoding into language comprehension will give you reading fluency. So if there is a child who, is able to decode words,
Wow.
yeah, but the child does not have language comprehension, the reading comprehension will not be there, and that goes similar for the other also. So there could be situations where we have second language problems, right? So suppose a child knows about the decoding structure, knows about letter graphemes, phonemes, is able to give you with the phonemes and the graphemes, is able to read out, give you the word, but has no context to it, the child will not be able to do reading comprehension. So I teach a lot of kids, who come from different stratas of society.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And when I teach them, I'm able to understand that because there is no background knowledge and no context, they are able to read, but there is no sense that they can create.
In
On
fact,
the other hand,
yeah. In fact, it's like doodling for them in their mind. They may
Yes.
feel like they are able to break the word, but they are unable to split it out as a word.
no, that's something different. That's
Yeah.
something where they might have a language comprehension, but they do not have a decoding structure, Ms. Manasa. It's like
Yeah.
they know, okay, something like if I put two letters, two sounds together, I'm putting two sounds together. I'm able to say the sounds.
Yeah.
But there is no image that I have in my brain with those sounds associated.
Yes. Yes.
Right? That's where they are giving you the words, but comprehension is not happening. It's not there. Right?
Yeah.
So therefore, both of them have to be dealt with. And the 5 essential strands that we have to remember is that these out of the 8 strands, let's talk about these 4 strands and the fluency of it to bring in reading structures. Phonemic awareness with fluency, systematic phonics with fluency, vocabulary development and comprehension with fluency, right? Because their life for reading is depending, all the subjects are depending on the reading structures and comprehension. So therefore, we cannot go out with this. It's very important that when we're doing phonic structures, we do the the wall activities, because they hear but they're not able to identify. A lot of problems happen when we are doing the wall sounds. Consonants still they are able to do, but wall sounds are like, you say or, you say e, they'll be writing a letter e, right? Not the sound e. You say they'll be using a letter a in the spellings. So a direct connection to phonological awareness is about letters, sounds with the walls. And then the second steps that comes in is the hand walls, the long sounds and the short sounds. So many people feel that there are just 5 wall sounds in English, but there are short sounds and there are long sounds. And we do create this kind of a structure for our students. We create these wall hands, and these wall hands, they get to write the short sounds and the wall sounds. They also understand that here AI is giving you one sound, that is A. Double E gives you one sound, that is E, I, O, and U. And therefore, it's very important to start to understand the difference with the ears, with the short sound and the long sound. So I do this little activity with most of my educators and students, wherein we do, this activity to identify whether they know the sound of a short and a long. So see, if you are an adult and I give you a word ran, you would automatically identify the letter is A.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And if I give you a word rain, you will identify it is AI, because you must have written those spellings and read those words so many times. But if I ask you to do an activity, I give you a word, a short sound, go down, a long sound, go up, short, and this is the long sound. You might make mistakes, right? So try figuring out some words like ran, go down, rain, shut, where will you go? Down, right? And then you have a word like shoot, you have a word like road, you have a word like cake. You hear the sound A, so you'll have to go long. So try doing this activity with your children when you are teaching short sound and long sounds. This will bring in fluency with the phonological awareness. And once there is fluency with phonological awareness, then you will have some tricky words. Give them logic for tricky words. Suppose there is a word like have. You can write a word have with a and a oo. Why do I require an E at the end? Why is it?
Yes.
Right? Or a word like want, was, want, water. Can you look at some kind of a pattern here?
Yeah.
Bring in logic, because there are many words in the dictionary that are not the normal sound words. So the complexities are very high in the English language, as words have been just picked up from all the other languages, and there are a huge number of alternatives. So one word that you use generally as an English teacher is like, it's an exception. You give a rule and you say, no, there's an exception. So have is an exception, dove is an exception. So we have got a lot of exceptions. Let's not talk about just exceptions. Let's orient ourselves, empower ourselves to know the spelling rules. So the spelling rule in the first one is that the letter V never ends in an English word. And what we teach our children is that because it's a V, it cannot stand by itself, it would tumble down. And therefore, the letter E is someone who can support any wall, and it just stands there without giving its sound. So it is not have, it's have, but the E there is actually just supporting the letter V. And you look at the second pattern where you've got a W with an A. So it's a rule in English that when W followed by A will always give you a sound wo. And the moment you give this rule, they will never ever give a wrong pronunciation. And they will know that it's an A which is coming after a W to give you an awesome. So no spelling mistakes. So there are around 132, abstract things that to be learned in English language to make you very fluent with the phonics structure. So just 132. Do some of these loop cards for decoding. I love them. I personally love it. So what I do is I do a pattern of a dot and a dash. And I ask my children to write some words for the dot and the dash. So if I give you a dot and a dash combination, and what do you mean by a dot and dash combination is, suppose there's a word cash. So letter C is a single sound, so it's at a dot. Letter A has a single sound, so it's a dot. But SH is made up of two ones, right? S and H. So it's a dash. So you can say a dot, and a dash. Right?
It's like Morse code.
Yeah, it's something like Morse code.
Yeah, it's resemble like Morse code.
Yes. So why not bring it into class and just give them, and you will be delivered with a kind of words that they would get for you, right? So this is one thing. And then whenever you're using sight words, use a lot of games like snowball fight, sort it, because this has to be done without any logic. But as I said, please try to bring in the tricky part of it, like I have done it in have. What is the tricky part? Why do I say it is not have a, but the E is already there? So just take a direct connection with sight recognition. And once you have done words, move with vocabulary word webs. A lot of vocabulary they can develop, because when I ask about, how do you feel? So I think even for the emotion like happy, there is just happy or excited, just two words as adults people speak.
Pretty good.
They don't have an expression to vocabulary.
Yeah.
But we can do that by using a lot of word webs. So every week that I used to do is like in the curriculum, every week they have to, look into the dictionary and find a lot of synonyms and antonyms. And that's how they start to create their word webs and put into the classroom. And it really helped increase vocab. And then the next thing that I did was they had to write some paragraphs using those synonyms.
Wow.
And you're transferring, because important part is not about knowing the synonym. Important part is about using the synonym in your daily life.
Yeah.
Right? And then you are able to make a better creative writer, because why do we teach language to children? We teach language to children to communicate. And what is the real meaning of being a good communicator? The real meaning of being a good communicator actually is when you are able to make the other person not only understand, but agree to your conversation, whether it is written or it is spoken. Yeah. So the use of right words helps out. So maybe if my teachers would have done that kind of an exercise with me, even I would have had a great vocabulary today, which I feel, though I try to put on and increase it every day, but still, whatever happens in your school is something which you take for life. Yeah. So more meaningful words are done. Direct connection to language structure. Put these kinds of things somewhere and ask children, what message does it give? Teach through errors, as you know. And once you're teaching through errors, it makes more sense for children, because they can see the wrong side of it, or the reflection of what went wrong and how the reflection has been done. And this helps them do a lot of language structure. Then teach the parts of the speech.
Yuko.
Yeah. So which part of speech do you think it is?
African comes under noun, but it's a proper noun. And new comb. You is nothing but we are giving quality or adjective, comes under adjective and adverb.
Very nice. So you're talking about new comb has come as an adjective to you with a lot of clarity because this was a word which was done in the school years. We
Yeah.
were taught adjectives. We said, okay, anything that describes a noun is an adjective. But
Exactly.
let's look at African dancer. Is dancer not a noun?
Yes, of
So
course.
that
It's a,
means African is also just like new an adjective, but it is
Yeah.
a proper adjective because it is coming from a proper noun,
yes.
right? So
Yes.
you again see we are not decoding the language structure also, like we're not doing synthetic phonics in our schools, which is to be done. And this is one question which I always ask educators to make them understand that if I talk about all the words here, she took
Yeah.
away her
Yeah.
birthday basket.
Birthday.
So what is the part of speech? How do we find out the parts of this speech? She, we all know it's going to be a pronoun.
Pronoun. Took,
Yeah. If I look at,
And
you will
verb.
be able to do everything.
Together
What
is
about,
a verb.
okay, took is a verb, away.
Away is a kind of condition, so it comes under sometimes conjunction also, because it acts as a bridge between the two sentences.
Not a conjunction here.
Okay.
Not a
She-
conjunction here.
Away. Preposition. Away.
What about her?
Her. Her. Hers. I have no clue.
Looks like a pronoun, right?
Okay. Pronoun. Yeah.
It looks
Birthday
like a pronoun.
is a
No,
proper
but this
pronoun.
is not how we teach.
Yeah.
This is not how we teach. What we ask them, can you find out the noun here?
Wow. Huh.
Which is the noun?
Basket.
Do you see any noun? Basket. Wonderful. Can you find out the words they're talking about the basket?
Birthday. Because it's a kind of birthday
Oh,
basket.
great. It's a birthday basket. So what is a birthday here? It becomes an
Birthday is-
adjective.
Yeah.
Whose basket?
Her basket.
Her birthday basket. So her is also an adjective, but it is a possessive adjective.
Yes.
So things are very simple in the language structure. The only
Yeah.
thing is we do not have the explicit instruction to do it, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, it's time to unlearn and relearn and bring the part of structure like this, right? So, doing language structures will become very difficult, or doing creative haiku poems will become very difficult for them if they are not done with the correct phonic structure and they are not done with the correct language structures, right?
True.
So, including these kinds of instructions are very, very important. And then going into understanding that these are the big fives. We have to develop them in the 8 years, and we have to bring in reasoning for children. We don't have to just talk about just to remember. We have to make them answer. We have to give them inquiry-based learning. And once we do this, the simple view of reading becomes very, very simple for us, right? So I know it's very difficult to cover the simple view of reading
Yeah.
in just a matter of, an hour, or even if you say a day, because each and every strand, that the 8 strands it has, is in itself is very, very deep, each one of them. But there are, available resources on the internet which you may use to gather understanding about each one of them. And the most important part is, how much do we want to learn, right? And how much do we think? Because as educators, one of the things that I feel even I was missing with the art of questioning. I need to question everything that's there in my text or that has been given me, so that I'm teaching someone. I really need to have an answer. Why? Why would I teach this? And how can I make it logical for my children? Yeah. So I think we are now open, Miss Anjali, for question and answers.
Yeah. Ma'am,
Thank you.
actually, People may think that it's very easy to teach till 8 years or 6 years, but I'm telling now this is very hard experience to make them learn this kind of teaching, and also washing their level of perception to understand the image or the core concepts which actually they have no knowledge about it. It's been really an amazing kind of teaching which we're supposed to. Actually, we should have this kind of thing. Maybe at least I just got to know about this. Maybe future, I'll surely work on it. Thank you for providing us a wonderful chance to learn what actually the phonetics and kind of what it helps for. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anshu ma'am, for your insightful presentation on science of reading. Your expertise and passion for transformative education has truly inspired us all. Now it's time for our engaging Q&A session, where we encourage all the participants to share their questions and seek further clarity on the intriguing topic discussed today. So without further ado, let's dive into our Q&A session, where you have queries about the techniques of effective reading, insights into the latest educational methodologies, or any aspects of science of reading. Miss Anshu ma'am is here to provide you with valuable answers. Ma'am, I already see some questions and I will read them out for you.
Yeah, sure.
The first question is, how can parents effectively support their children's reading development at home?
For parents, it's very important that they understand just one thing, that there is a systematic approach and they can take up decodable readers. So one such program that I know about is Fitzroy Readers from Australia. They pick up one story on a sound and they have around 60 stories. Children love those books. Instructions are also given as to how a parent can help them out. And then it's also about talking. So, Venkatita, I don't know who's given this question, but I would always like to get back to, what was our mode of teaching when we were little ones. We used to have a lot of stories, bedtime stories. And when our grandparents used to give us those bedtime stories, after every, a little aspect of it, they used to keep asking, now what? Now what? And then there used to be a time they used to say, okay, if this would have not happened, then what? So many a times what we are doing with our children is, one is we are missing the explicit instruction of teaching. One. The second is we are not talking to them. We are not looking at the visualizations. So if we just combine these two things together on a daily basis, none of other things can stop them from becoming good readers.
Yes, ma'am. And I think their doubt would be cleared. We have another question, and the question is, how can educators differentiate reading instructions to meet the diverse needs of students?
A very beautiful question. Very beautiful. When there is a level skill reading program, and not just anything, not just picking up any book, then I exactly know that my child needs these many sounds to read a particular reader. And then, so how do I divide it? As an educator, what I do the 42 sounds. I'll just share my screen once again so that I'm able to showcase the 42 sounds and I'm able to showcase a few more things. It will make it easier for everyone to understand. Just give me a moment. This is called the complete alphabetic code of the language. If you're able to see my screen, every letter has got many different ways to spell it out. So like I see letter S, we know it makes the sound S, but there are many different ways, many different spellings through which I get this sound S. Similarly, if I look at there are 5 different ways in which I get the sound To have a level structure, I need that first the 42 sounds have to be done with my children. So there are total 42 basic sounds that I have to do, taking in care of the digraphs also. So the first level is 42 sounds. Now this instruction card will let you know which is the next level of sounds that I need to teach my child. So please, if you have to talk about reading and you have to talk about differentiation in the reading levels, you just have to first begin with the 42 sounds. Even for adults, we try doing this. So if there is a child in grade 5 who has never done an instruction in phonics or level reading, we first begin with the level 0, that is 42 sounds. After 42 sounds, very quickly we would move on to the spelling alternatives. The first ones, the second ones, the third ones. So this alphabetic code, English alphabetic code, if you find out, you will get this. And this English alphabetic code will help you go into differentiated learning processes. So if I know my child is able to read the CE, I can move into the SE concept. And then I can move into the CE, CI, CY concept. And then I move to the SC. And why this has been graded in this manner? So that maximum reading can happen. The 42 sounds, in the 42 sounds, we are taking double E as an E sound and not EA, because the maximum words are done with double E. So this is a progression chart which can help you out to talk about differentiated learnings. And of course, then you can have peer groups. See, I completely understand that it's very difficult. As I said in the very beginning, that it's an elephant in the classroom. Why? Because our tools are not there for us through which we can cater to this elephant. So there is half-baked knowledge. We don't have the key books and the instruction cards, the clue cards through which we know, okay, level 1 achieved, now let's move to level 2, level 3, level 4. No. What we get to teach is a book which has got the complete alphabetic code, which should be done after 8 years of phonics instruction. A simple example, a very simple example which I can share with you is, there is a sentence called my name is, right? Now this my name is having lot of problems, right? If I come with the sounds of 26 letters, I will read it as mere name is, because my teacher has taught me this phoneme grapheme association. I don't know that the letter Y makes a sound I here. I don't know that there is a magic key playing here. I don't know that the S can also make a sound Z, but I'm supposed to make a child read this. Yeah, and therefore the problem will arise. There is no other way except for using a leveled reading program. Yeah? I hope, Hemant, I have answered the question.
Yes, ma'am. And we see one last question, ma'am. And the question is there any app to learn phonetics?
There are many ones. As I said that across the world, there are 2 very beautiful programs of phonics. One of them is Jolly Phonics and the other is Fitzroy. It's not because that I'm trained in them that I am talking about them in such high scopes, but they truly have structured programs. So a Fitzroy sounds, you can have, you can have it on the Play Store, and the Jolly, Teachers app is also on the Play Store. And I would say, as as a disclaimer, please be very careful with the sounds while you're picking them from the YouTube, because there are many people who use wrong sounds, number 1. Number 2, they use 2 sounds at one go. Suppose there is a video where it talks about A, apple. I am not talking about the letter sound. I'm talking about A, which is the name of the letter. And I don't understand this as an adult, but my child is hearing 2 different sounds, A. And when the child is able to look at something like ant, will the child say A? This is what you expect. So please pick up the YouTube videos very carefully. The 2 that I know are very good. One of the best programs in reading. One is Jolly and the other is Fitzroy. If you wish to connect me on LinkedIn, if you wish to connect me through SEMS, any of the ways, please do that, so that if required, I can help you out with these reading programs, because it's not about the product. It's not because I'm associated with this organization. It's because after all the research that has been done. These are the two only programs that help children read well, and they give end to end. It's not about just the basic sounds. Yes, I will write the names of uh, the apps. One is Fitzroy Sounds from the Play Store, and the other is Jolly Songs. Jolly Songs are done for both 26 letters and 42 sounds. Fitzroy Sounds work with 26 letters. Their Jolly Songs are working more on giving you the mouth position and they're very beautiful, peppy songs. Fitzroy Sounds works on, the heartbeat, because that's the beat that the children understand very well.
That's a wonderful answer, ma'am. And that's the end of our Q&A session. Thank you all for your thought-provoking questions. Your curiosity and enthusiasm for the science of reading have made this Q&A session truly engaging. Our sincere appreciation to Anshu ma'am for sharing her valuable insights and expertise guiding us on this transformative journey in education. We hope the knowledge gained today will empower you in your reading endeavors, whether as educators, parents, or lifelong learners. Remember, the joy of learning through reading knows no bounds, and we encourage you to continue exploring and expanding your horizons. On behalf of the SEMS Welfare Foundation and our esteemed speaker, Anshu Dua, I extend our heartfelt gratitude for your active participation. Let's continue to champion the cause of transformative education and embrace the power of reading in shaping bright futures, young minds. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. And thank you
Thank you
again,
so
ma'am.
much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sen, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, everyone. And special thanks to Manasa
Thank you,
for being the
ma'am.
support. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all your chats and the appreciation, your kind words. Every little word helps us move through this journey one step ahead. Thanks.